Having a number one overall pick is a bittersweet moment for an NFL franchise. Aside from the one-off situation in which a team trades for it, having the first pick in the draft means that your franchise finished in the cellar of the league the previous season. This, while disappointing, honestly kind of beats the purgatory in which many teams often find themselves in. You know, teams like the New York Jets or Los Angeles Chargers who seem like they never end up being good enough to make a deep playoff run, but are never bad enough to bottom out and get a franchise-changing player at the top of the draft. The point being, while there is an undeniable disappointment coming off of a season bad enough to garner the number one pick in the draft, there is also a strange hope that afflicts the team's heartbroken fan base. Maybe, just maybe, this will be the player that turns it all around. And in some cases, it is, like Peyton Manning was for the Indianapolis Colts, or even like his brother Eli was for the New York Giants. But sometimes something along the way goes wrong and the pick goes haywire. Either there were conflicting opinions in the boardroom or the owner overrules the football ops guys. Or sometimes, well, the surefire pick just doesn't pan out. Needless to say, there's a ton of pressure that comes with making the first selection in the draft. And for the 2020 NFL Draft, a lot of jobs in the Cincinnati Bengals corporate office will be riding on who they end up selecting. It appears to be a foregone conclusion that they will select Joe Burrow out of LSU, who is coming off quite possibly the greatest single collegiate season we have ever seen. In 2019, he passed for over 5,600 yards with 60 touchdowns en route to winning every award under the sun, including the Heisman Trophy and, more importantly, the College Football Playoff National Championship. After some of the performances Burrow had down the stretch of his final season down in Baton Rouge, it's no shocker that he has become the consensus choice to be the number one selected overall in the 2020 draft. I mean, just look at the numbers he put up in the College Football Playoff alone. In the semis against the number 4 ranked Oklahoma, Burrow hit on 29 of 39 pass attempts for 493 passing yards and even 7 passing touchdowns, all of which were in the first half, as the game ended up being a runaway blowout with the Tigers winning 63-28. Then in the finals, against the defending champion Clemson Tigers, Burrow recovered from a slow start to throw for 463 yards and 5 touchdowns, adding another one on the ground en route to a 42-25 national championship victory and MVP honors. Pretty damn good. But all of that being said, is it possible that despite all the accolades that Burrow had in 2019, taking him with the number one pick could be a mistake? I happen to recall another very successful quarterback to come out of LSU that was can't miss ahead of his respective draft, a name that no NFL prospect wants to hear uttered in their draft prospectus, Jamarcus Russell. Russell, who played just 3 seasons with the Oakland Raiders after being taken number 1 overall in the 2007 NFL Draft, compiled a meager 7-18 record as a starter, throwing just 18 touchdowns and turning the ball over 38 times. His pro career wasn't just bad, it was horrendous, and he is widely considered to be one of the biggest draft busts of all time. Now, I'm not saying that Joe Burrow is doomed as a pro, but there are some stark similarities between the two that are hard to ignore. The comparisons start at the very basic level. Both guys were all-time good QBs during their 2 seasons down in Baton Rouge, with Burrow leading a dominant Tigers team in 2018 and 19, and Russell doing it in 2005 and 6. And while it may seem impossible because Burrow's stock has risen so high, and well, we all know how the Jamarcus Russell story went at this point, but the two guys had very similar levels of hype heading into their respective drafts. Take a listen to what longtime NFL draft pundit Mel Kiper Jr. has said about Burrow ahead of this year's draft. I think the competitiveness, the knowledge of this offense, Joe Brady raves about how quickly he picked up what Drew Brees has been doing so well through his career with the Saints. And to be as accurate and precise, mobile, he's got it all. I think if you want to be a doubter, you could say, well, it's only 1 year of greatness. But it was 1 year of unbelievable greatness, and that's why he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. While some of the particulars vary a little bit, Kiper was equally excited about Russell's future in the NFL, again highlighting the impact that he believed the quarterback would have on the organization. Jamarcus Russell was going to immediately energize that fan base, that football team, on the practice field, in that locker room. 3 years from now, you could be looking at a guy that's certainly one of the elite top 5 quarterbacks in this league. You're talking about a 2-3 year period once he's under center. Look out, because the skill level that he has is certainly John Elway-like. An inspirational difference maker with the ability to move his feet in the pocket and deliver the ball all over the field. Sound familiar? Perhaps Kiper did learn a little bit from his emphatic predictions for Jamarcus, as he was slightly more measured in his praise for Burrow. But the sentiment is the same. Here's a guy coming out of one of the best programs in the country, and he's going to go #1 overall, and he is going to be a difference maker. And while it may not be exactly what Bengals fans want to hear, the more you look at the two quarterbacks' college resumes, it becomes a little bit alarming just how similar their respective times at LSU were. For starters, just about every time that Burrow was in the news this year for breaking an LSU passing record or eclipsing a statistical milestone, there was one name that was mentioned almost without fail: Jamarcus Russell. When Russell finished at LSU, he was near the top of almost every significant passing statistic. He was ranked second all-time at LSU in career completion percentage at 61.9% and career touchdown passes with 52. He also ranked third in career completions with 493 and career passing yards with 6,625. And during his senior year, he proceeded to tie the single-season passing touchdown mark of 28. Burrow, on the other hand, finished his career at LSU ranked #1 in school history for career completion percentage at 68.5%, passing yards per game with 305.9, and touchdown passes with 76. Oh, we're not done. Burrow also had an LSU record 15 300-yard passing games, 4 400-yard passing games, 9,332 total yards, and 88 total touchdowns he was responsible for. He also finished second in LSU history with 621 career completions and 8,565 career passing yards. Oh, by the way, remember that single-season passing touchdown record that Russell had? Burrow smashed that just 7 games into the 2019 season en route to an insane 60 touchdowns. Burrow also joined Russell as the only other LSU quarterbacks to post consecutive 10-win seasons and win the Manning Award, which is given out annually to the best collegiate quarterback as judged by the Sugar Bowl committee. It isn't just their time at LSU that was so similar either. Despite having massively different upbringings, with Jamarcus coming from Mobile, Alabama, and Joe Burrow having lived all over the country growing up because his dad was a very successful college football coach, both players were absolute studs in high school. Obviously, almost every successful Division I athlete was a standout in high school, but these two guys ascended to heights that were truly next level. During Burrow's high school career at the Athens High School in the Plains, Ohio, he passed for 11,416 yards with 157 passing touchdowns and rushed for 2,067 yards with 27 rushing touchdowns, earning Ohio's Mr. Football Award and Gatorade Player of the Year honors. Russell posted similar numbers, throwing for 10,744 yards and 84 touchdown passes, both of which were Alabama high school records. With such insane production, it shouldn't come as much of a surprise that both QBs were top recruits heading into their college football careers. But this being said, there are some noticeable differences between the journey that the two individuals took to get to LSU. Jamarcus committed to LSU straight out of high school. After redshirting his freshman year, he quickly became the starter. Burrow had a much more tumultuous journey to greatness. Out of high school, he committed to his hometown university, Ohio State, but struggled to stand out amongst a talented group of quarterbacks, including J.T. Barrett. Even after Barrett left Columbus, Burrow still faced fierce competition for the starting job, and he would ultimately lose out to another future pro, Dwayne Haskins. This prompted Burrow to start looking elsewhere, and in May of 2018, it was officially announced that he would be transferring to LSU. After seeing how his career as a Tiger played out, you might be surprised to hear that the LSU fan base had mixed reactions to the news that Burrow was transferring in. There was a growing belief that he wasn't a winner because he kept getting beat out for the job at Ohio State and elected to transfer out after losing yet another quarterback competition. Russell, on the other hand, was often given the benefit of the doubt despite having rather pedestrian numbers during his first year as a starter, completing just 50.7% of his passes for over 1,000 yards and only 9 touchdowns. There was still a buzz around him, and most people still believed wholeheartedly that he was going to be a star, chalking up the meager production to his youth, the limited responsibilities that the quarterbacks on most Nick Saban-led teams have. Now, before any Joe Burrow fans out there start freaking out, it isn't like these two are carbon copies of one another, particularly when you look at what made them each so special on the field. Russell possessed a level of athleticism and arm talent that was beyond rare. At 6 feet 6 inches and 265 pounds, but with the mobility of a much smaller man, Russell had always been able to do things on the football field that others simply could not. Like he infamously threw a football 70 yards on his knees during his recruiting visit to LSU. Although Burrow was no slouch in his own right, so much of what makes him effective happens between the ears. As the son of a coach, he possesses a unique ability to process the game and goes through his progressions and makes decisions so well, it almost looks like the game is happening in slow motion for him. Obviously, he can sling the pigskin with the best of them, but so many guys have arm talent and don't pan out because there is so much that goes into playing quarterback at the highest level. At this point, the biggest concern about Burrow was the brevity of his success. As dominant as his 2019 season was, When you look back at his college career, there were very few signs of a potential first overall pick before that Heisman-winning season. And the growing concern is that LSU offensive coordinator Joe Brady and his quarterback-friendly offense might have had a little bit more to do with Burrow's success than his camp would like us to believe. But who knows, maybe Burrow's game will translate well to the next level, or maybe it will be yet another instance of an LSU quarterback not panning out in the NFL. Only time will tell. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, now's a great time to hit that subscribe button down below. If you like the video, then like the video. We'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, don't forget to tune in to TPS every single day for more cool videos. We'll see you next time.